My name is Kimberlee Smith. I'm a liberal Democrat and I'm a student at Reinhardt University and I'm a communications major. And Drew?
I grew up really right wing conservative. Really only taught one way. I went to college at South Georgia Technical College University and majored in aviation maintenance and management. I currently work at West Star Aviation in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We maintain corporate and private jets for the military. And yeah, I guess if I had to choose a political party right now, it's just kind of like an in-betweener. I'm not a fan of either side. I just want to be able to I just want unity.
I feel like it's the same for you the way it was for me, how we grew up in homes that taught us what we were supposed to know or how we're supposed to view things. And then we never did the proper research ourselves, so we just were ignorant for most of our lives. So I feel like it was on the opposite spectrums for us because I was raised Democrat and you were raised Republican.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely agree with that. And growing up, you really only see what your mom, your dad, what or what your family really wants you to see. And yeah, I think that's really anyone. I think really majority of people, 75% of people in the realms of especially high school level from 14 to 18, it's just whatever they've grown up, whatever they've witnessed and everything, and that's what they're gonna push off, and that's gonna be their ego. And it's not really until you get out there and you start meeting new people and getting out of your comfort zone until you start really realizing, oh well, I kind of see where this person's coming from and why they might think that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Let me go back a little bit and let's talk about our relationship together because it's kind of weird, but barely there.
yeah, definitely up and
Yeah,
down. Right.
so Drew and I went to the same elementary school, Honey Creek Elementary School, for from kindergarten to fifth grade. And then I went on to public school, and I think you went to private school. Did you go to private school right after fifth grade, or did you go to public school for a bit?
I went to private school right after fifth grade. Yeah.
And then in my ninth grade year, I went to 1 year of public school, and then it was kind of dangerous for me because everybody was like going to shoot up the school, and there are fights happening all the time. So my mom found Young Americans Christian School, and I didn't know Drew was going there. And on the first day, I was like, "Hey, I know that guy. It's Drew. I haven't seen him forever." But like, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
we never really ran in the same circles
Mm-mm.
because I
Not
don't.
really. Not exactly.
It was never really because of our political views because they came out like in the last year when the election.
Exactly. And honestly, it was looking back on it now, it was just straight ignorance why I supported Trump in 2016 or anything like that. I agree with some of the policies, and but I also do not like the way I don't like the way the things have went the last 4 years, and it was it's all. I hate the fact that it's the torn between two evils on which side to go to in my eyes right now. And no, us not running in the same crowds or anything like that. It had nothing to do with politics or anything like that. Because back then, I had no idea what politics were. I couldn't tell you any of his foreign policies, any of his none of that. Back then, it was just the fact that that's who my family was voting for. That's who all my friends' families were voting for, and it was just kind of like a yeah, Trump. And it was like the new wave. He was it wasn't a politician, it was a businessman, and they cracked it up to be more than what it ended up being, unfortunately.
Yeah, because it never really made sense to me why he was elected in the first place because he never held a government job and he was a
And
reality TV star.
from a I understand why people got kind of excited about it was because they wanted to see our country ran like a business, and unfortunately you have a lot of people that have been in politics for so many years, but with all those years in politics they haven't exactly done much with them, or they've kind of switched back and forth to the normal of what the party wants them to be rather than who they truly are. So I think personally the way the wave with Donald Trump and why it got such to be a big thing was, oh well, he's an excuse my French, but he's an asshole. He's just going to run this country like a business. It's going to be perfect for the American worker. And in instances it was, but at the same time, whether you're running the country like a business or not, there's absolutely no room for you to spread hate. There's no room for you to belittle people that think different of you. And it's just his public speaking was just atrocious. And that's what I dislike the most about him.
Yeah, because you told me that you were a Republican because of like the people you were around and stuff. Like, what was that? What made you change from Donald Trump and Republicans to like being in a
Well,
different space?
no, I'm still around all those people, all the friends I hung out with in high school. I still hang out with them on a regular basis. I still love them dearly. Unfortunately, a lot of them aren't open minded whatsoever. They are core in their beliefs, and they're all one way. And from an outside looking in, it's hard to see why they think that. But at the end of the day, they're still good people, and they mean well. They just have they're really hard headed, and I wouldn't really say I lean either way. It's just I look out for kind of what is the best for me, and that's how I vote politically, and the best that's in my mind. And I'm not really the most outspoken, open person. It's like if you look at my Twitter account or really any social media, you would be like bamboo, like super confused. I'm sure anyone that looks at it is just like, what the heck is this guy thinking? And it's just because one second I'm tweeting things I agree with from the Republican end, and then the next second it's far left Democratic. And it's like it comes up all the time at family dinners and stuff. It's like, why'd you retweet that, or why'd you post it on Facebook? And it's like, well, because that makes sense from that party. That makes sense from that party. And it's like because I'm really just torn straight down the line, and I just want I just want everyone to come together. I don't like how everything's so divided, and I don't like how everyone wants to be against each other. I just want to see everyone to get along and come to a normal, which
Yeah,
since 2020 has been nothing but normal.
yeah. If you don't mind me asking, who did you vote for if you voted?
Oh, I did vote. I actually voted for Biden. I'm starting to have like I was saying guesses now because he's talking about like shutting the country down, and I'm like, please don't do that. But yeah, I did vote for Biden. And it wasn't because I liked him more than Trump. It's not that he's had his fair share of wrongs, and being from like just like a cut down the middle moderate, you know, the biggest thing I don't like with him is that honestly, it seems like he just changes his speeches. He changes everything about himself for what's going on in modern day and what the voters want to hear. And that was my biggest problem voting for him was it's just like, is he going to make a difference? Is he going to do what I want him to do? Or is he just saying he's going to do these things and then nothing comes out of it?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
personally speaking, it kind of cuts deep because they talk about fracking and they talk about no more fossil fuels. They want to get rid of the oil and gas industry. And I'm not directly in the gas industry and the oil industry, but the company I work for in the field that I'm in, we rely heavily on oil and gas with aviation, airplanes, and everything. And them wanting to cut out fracking and everything is going to drive the cost up of fuel and oil, which means a lot of people it'll plummet the airline industries because they're not going to be able to afford the gas because they'll skyrocket that. And I'm all for wanting to find a better way to cut out emissions and everything, but it's stopping fracking. And he came out and said that he was going to no more fracking. They're going to get rid of that, and it would just I just don't see there being an actual way to do that. And it scares me because it's like, well, if he does that, I could be potentially out of the job. And then I also don't like which I'm not educated enough to really speak on it and elaborate on it. But the whole taxes and everything, I'm a real I want everyone to be taxed the same. I don't want to. I just don't want to see my money just going away abundantly because Right now, I don't even see 26% of my paycheck every single time I get paid, and I'm like, oh, where's it going? So,
Yeah, I understand completely. When you said before, like how Biden seems to like mold and shape himself to the modern people, I think that's absolutely true, and I didn't really realize it until you said it because Biden, he had policies, he agreed with policies that were against LGBTQ people in the past, and now he's all for them, and also the same with Black Americans, and now he's all
right,
for them, and now
right, with
he only picked a. I feel like he only picked a Black vice president because of the police brutality and George Floyd thing, and that probably got him all the votes, the 4 million votes that he needed to actually be president. So I didn't really think about that until now.
right. But which, with that being said, I don't think he was the wrong choice, and I don't think, honestly, as much as we want to hound on how important politics are and how important our president is, at the end of the day, it doesn't come down to who's your president or any of that. It comes down to who's in your Senate, who's in your House. Because if Biden gets elected and he's not in there for 8 years, if he's only in there for 4 years, all the Republicans are going to do on the Republican side of the party is say the election was fraud. They're going to try to get him out of office for the first 2 to 3 years. And then the fourth year, it's election year. Every single election year, everything goes crazy. So his first 4 years, as much as he'll do small things, he might do some monumental things. I hope he does. But it's he's going to be hounded so hard just because that's the way American politics are. Is a lot of the things he said, there's a good chance it won't get done because the Republicans hold the majority in a lot of the politics nowadays. So that's why, to me, it's like with the runoff elections and everything, it's like, and I'm happy people are telling people to go out and vote, but I don't want people to come out and be like, vote blue, vote red. I want people to come out and just say, vote. Go out and vote for what you think is right. I don't want them to be influenced by political figures or rappers or movie stars. I just want them to go out and what they think is in their mind do.
I want to ask you a personal question. Well, I remember one day we were in English class and I sat down for the flag when everyone stood. Do you remember that?
I do.
I just want to know how that affected you. Like, because I know that you and everybody else was being kind of petty about it, but like, it was just me
So
sitting down for a piece of paper or a flag in the air. Like, it didn't really affect me much, but it affected everybody a lot. So I want to know how you felt about that.
for the movement to make you want to kneel for the flag, or because this person was killed wrongfully, it shouldn't, that the flag should have nothing to do with that. You standing and respecting personally, you standing and just being grateful you're part of a country to where you can kneel for the anthem or not stand up for the anthem, or you can go out and voice your opinion, you can go out and do this, you can go out and live everyday life. I don't feel like you should bring the flag and the anthem into your protest or anything like that, because at the end of the day, stuff like that happens every single day in every other country, just as much as it does in America. It just doesn't get as broadcasted. So why sit down for the flag in the nation that's given you the opportunity to voice that opinion? And it's like, take that anger, take that movement and localize it on something that doesn't get other people aroused, doesn't trigger other people. Put it into something. I don't know what else you could put it into, but personally speaking, in back then I might have been, like I said, I was very ignorant in high school. Back then, I might not have seen where you were coming from. Now that I see where you're coming from and everything, I still personally don't feel like it gives a doesn't it just doesn't give off a good vibe to other people seeing somebody sit for the flag or anything like that. Just because that flag symbolizes so much more than just police brutality or innocent killings, or the old history of America. It means so much more to that. It means you get to wake up every single day and do what you want. You can quit your job. You can go out and do this. You can go out and do that. And that, we shouldn't hold it to just the anthem and the flag. We should hold it to a higher standard of let's get this fixed, personally speaking. But that's just where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I understand. Like also, I just wanted to cause a scene. It was more like because at that time it was when Trump did the Muslim ban at the airport, and I was like, why not just sit down for the flag? Because everybody else is doing it. So technically, I was also ignorant as well because I didn't even know what that meant when I was doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and also I almost
Right.
got expelled, which was great.
Well, now that's complete utter bullcrap. They, yeah, the school had no right to ever do that. Yeah, even as a person looking back on it now, I had no right to neglect you or no right to, I guess, just I had no right to be angry about that. If you don't feel like standing or if you don't feel like saying the Pledge of Allegiance or something like that, by all means, do whatever you want. But as far as I'm concerned, I won't ever not stand or anything like that. You know what I mean? Because as horrible as horrible, it's not even the country. It's as horrible as the world is. I'll always be proud to be an American, and I'm happy I grew up here because I didn't have to go through any struggles really. My hardest struggle was getting in a big fight with my mom when I turned 18, and she said, "Okay, you're on your own." That was my biggest struggle. She raised me, she fed me, she put me in school, and then I turned 18, got in a big fight with her, and she's like, "All right, you're on your own." So I was already an adult, and then I had to figure out what I was doing, and by that point, I had good morals and everything. I knew what I was doing, and so and it's just we have it so much better than most countries, and like any other country, we have our flaws and we have our problems with our systems, but it happens in every single country, and that's what I want. America as a whole, black, white, blue, purple, green, yellow. I don't care what race you are or anything. What internet? What I don't even. I'm sorry. What I don't
Nationality,
care.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. I don't care what you are. It's just like look, take a really good look at every other country and look around and realize how fortunate you are. Everything Americans are fighting over right now, everything we're upset over, are they're very very small problems in every other country. I mean, we're talking about countries that most kids don't know where their next meal is coming from. Most kids, a lot of they don't have a job. They're working for quarters and dimes, making big companies money. Yeah, they're little ants. Here we have a voice, we have an opinion. When we don't like something, we have the opportunity to address our feelings about that topic. In other countries, you're dead. You like in the Middle East or in dictatorships and stuff like that. It's like, oh, you speak out, you're done. Here we can have protests, peaceful protests, which I'm all for. Unfortunately, it's like we can have riots almost, and I hate that part because I want to I want everyone to be able to protest, but the second that it turns into a riot and the second anything's vandalized or the second that any destruction's done, it's no longer a peaceful protest in my eyes, regardless of what it's for. But if you do that in another country or even speak out against something in another country, you're talking your life right now. And it's just like take a step back and realize what America's like because we truly are a melting pot, and we've just and I know whenever that statement was once said as we are a melting pot. Oh well, we're a melting pot that owns slaves, so obviously we weren't melting much. But as America's progressed, we have turned into a melting pot. Every single step America's made has been in the right direction. It's like why fight now? Let's just keep on making those steps. Personally, that's how I look at it. I guess.
I agree. And we can come back to this later if we have time, but I want to kind of backtrack. I want to know about the last 4 years from 2016 to 2020 and how like your relationship with republicanism and like Trump went, cuz like our views of 2020 might be similar and also might be different. So I want to know like what turned you off from like being a Republican and like what made Trump
Well,
gross to you finally.
so I wouldn't say okay. Gross. I find Trump gross just by the way he's a bully. I'm not gonna come out and say Trump's a racist because I personally don't think he is. I just think he has a very, very poor way of expressing himself. I think he has a bad way of portraying himself. I think if Trump didn't have a Twitter, he'd be a heck of a lot better of a person. If
Delete
he
his
wasn't
Twitter.
so, yeah, exactly. If he wasn't so blunt and outspoken, if he had a little hint of politician in him, he would be a great president. But you can't have somebody in the Oval Office and running this country that wants to bully everybody. And, when you have a problem with the country, he just wants to show you missiles and guns and tell you you're over. You can't have that. And I'm not saying I'm not. I would still say I lean more conservative and more Republican than I do Democrat. The only reason I voted for Biden this year and voted against Trump was because I looked a little further into it, and it's just well, would this bring happiness? Would this bring peace? Do we need to try something new? It's what has Trump done for me in the last 4 years? I couldn't tell you anything. What has he done? And it could be because for the first 2.5 years, 3 years, it was the whole Russia collusion thing. They were trying to impeach him. They were trying to. So maybe he didn't get a chance to do what he wanted to do. I will say this: I saved a little money in taxes. I like that, but that's not enough to make me vote for somebody. In my opinion, him being elected, and I don't think it was all his fault. I think the Democratic Party played just as big of a role as anything else in making him look like a monster and making him look worse than he was because they lost the election. I truly believe that. And because everything was blown out of proportion, words were twisted, words were turned. And I don't like for that to be how I judge somebody. I like to, well, let's go back and look at his history. Oh, well, he's a businessman in New York City. Oh, he donated tons of money to this. Oh, he funded this and that. And, he always hung out with, he hung out with numerous African American people, a lot of which endorsed him, like Herschel Walker, Muhammad Ali. They all came out and said, no, Donald Trump was my friend way before the election. And, if he was a bigot and a racist, like a lot of people try to portray him as, he wouldn't have been doing stuff like that back in the day. Back in 2001, 2000, the early 90s, he wouldn't have made it as far as a businessman if he was a straight bigot and racist. Because New York has been as diverse as it was his headquarters, which was Trump's headquarters, and he made it there. He made it. He made a fortune there. And I don't know. I'm probably way off the beaten path right now, but I guess as far as turning from a Republican to a Democrat, I didn't really. I just wanted to give somebody new a shot, and I wanted to see maybe, well, if we bring this guy in, maybe he can unify. Like, I'm not worried too much about the foreign policies. I'm not worried about much besides let's get a guy that can bring us all together through the next 4 years, maybe, and then maybe we can vote him out of office and get somebody that is actually going to do the right foreign policies, going to do the right tax plans, and get somebody that both parties can agree on. And it's not so far, oh, I'm far left, oh, I'm far right. I'm an American citizen. Let's figure this out. Let's get a good president. Because the last two elections have just been like a rolling the dice. Am I voting for the right candidate? Neither of them, in my perspective, neither of them have been good choices whatsoever. So,
I mean, for me, it was kind of like that the last election, like with Hillary. I was like, we're just gonna die. Like, these are the two worst
literally,
people to be president of the United States. They're not gonna vote for her because she's a woman, and also because of all this Clinton, um, just her being a person. And then
right.
Trump is just like not the best candidate either because he's not a politician, and also he has a controversial past. So it was more like that for me. The last election, this election, it was kind of clear that it was Joe Biden because mostly because of he worked with Obama and all these plans he was saying he was going to make, but like we still don't have evidence that he's going to do anything. He just like is saying that he's going to do everything.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And a lot of people don't like, dislike Obama and dislike a lot of the stuff that he stood for and all that. But my life wasn't bad underneath him. Nobody, but I don't know personally. I don't know enough about his administration or what they did. The biggest thing that I always hear Republicans and everything was, oh well, he stood up for the LGBTQ whatever, and it's like, why are you mad about that? It's like that does not affect you whatsoever, and it's just like I'm sick and tired of the Republican Party not wanting to recognize everybody for what they could be, and it's like you know, I I could never find myself to be that way. Personally speaking and morally speaking, I don't find that the right thing to do, I guess. Belief wise, morality wise, like in my head, I'm just like, okay. But if he wants to go, if they want to go get a beer with me, come on, let's go. Or if they want to hang out after work, yeah, let's do it. Y'all are more than welcome in my house. Come on. Because what they do, it's not changing my life whatsoever. And as long as they don't, come on to me that way or anytime, and even if that happened, it's just I'm sorry, I'm not like that. And it's right then and there. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It doesn't mean they're crazy. It just means that's what they believe in. That's what they like. Let them be like that. Don't let your political stance decide whether you like somebody or not. And
yeah.
I feel like that's our biggest problem as a country right now. Is because you have people that voted for Biden and you have people that voted for Trump, and it's constantly bashing each other. And it's like, I cannot see why you would ever vote for that candidate. I can't see why you would ever vote for that candidate. And it's just like, well, they both have decent ideas here and there. Why can't we just agree on that and still be friends? It's not, it should never be, oh, you voted for that, or oh, you're a Democrat, I don't want to be your friend, or oh, you're a Republican, you're a racist. It should never, ever be like that. And the fact that our politics, U.S. politics, has gotten to that point, I feel like is the biggest problem with this country.
Yeah. I feel like me personally, it would probably be hard for me to actually befriend a Republican just on the basis of like what you said and also media. It's like, oh, you don't like gay people or you want gay people to die and get locked up or you don't care about
Right.
black people, so I can't be your friend. But like sometimes it doesn't have to always be about politics. Like we can just
So
talk about nature or something. Like I don't know.
exactly, but what I want a lot of people to understand is that coming from, because I would still consider myself leaning more Republican than I do Democrat. Even I might have voted Democrat this election, but yeah, I still lean more, probably way more far right than I do Democrat. And my thing is that what I want people to understand is on both ends of the parties, Democrat and Republican, there are really, really good people. There are people, I like to consider myself a decent person, but there's people just like me that their views are on both sides of the party, and it's the silent majority. They might not talk about it. They might be a Republican to their friends. They might be a Republican at the end of the day, but when they go home, they're thinking, well, I see what they're talking about. Oh, well, I want that to happen too. Your political stance shouldn't stand for who you are as a person. Now, unfortunately, you have tons of people that take that crap way too seriously. And it's like, I'm a Republican, so I can't stand for this. I can't stand for that. I'm a Democrat, so I could never do that. There's a lot of people out there that are open minded on both ends of, on both sides of the spectrum. And it's just, let's just take a second to step back and think not all Republicans are bad, not all Democrats are bad. Just because you're a Republican and just because you think this way on some things doesn't mean you think that way about the nastier things like, discrimination and stuff like that. It's, you could be a Republican and absolutely love everything to do with immigration, love, you could still support all those things, but at the end of the day, you're a Republican because, you know, taxes, you're a Republican because you're more conservative. And that shouldn't be held against you just because of what you vote for. But now the outspoken ones, the people that are outspoken and blatantly racist, and regardless of what side they are on, that they're horrible people, and we should all be able to agree on that.
Yeah. And
So,
we both went to Christian schools. I believe we both were raised in Christian homes. Do you think that your beliefs have clouded your political stance in any way? Because most Christians
oh
are
yeah.
Republicans or have,
So
yeah.
I would say it's very hard to be in either party religiously wise right now. I don't think you could just stand for one party based off religious perspectives right now, because you have one party that's, like I said, so far to the left, and one party that's so far to the right. Obviously, religiously, personally, I would say it would be harder if I'm focusing straight on religion to be a far left leaning Democrat than it would be to a right leaning Democrat, because a lot of the Democratic legislation and policies and stuff aren't exactly Christian in the most part. And I'm pro-choice big time. I would never, I never want to tell a woman what to do with their body. It's not mine to speak. Now, if God forbid ever something happened, I would do every little bit of convincing I could to try to keep the kid or anything like that, just because the person I am. But somebody that's not as fortunate in that circumstance, then I see where I see where the chick's coming from. Religiously wise, I don't think I think my religion is a big reason why I'm so drawn in between both of them. Not the fact that I'm leaning more Republican or leaning more Democrat. I just think my religion is, you bring yourself here at the end of the day, and it's like, what can I do to better myself? What can I do to better this world? So your religion really, it shouldn't be drawing you towards a political preference. It should just be drawing you to yourself every single day and sitting down. The Bible doesn't talk about being a Republican or a Democrat. The Bible doesn't talk about being black or white. It doesn't talk about being any nationality. It just talks about being a good human being. It talks about doing what's right. And at the end of the day, you should vote for what you get the most out of that book, what you think is right, and what you want as a person. What candidate persuades you the most, and which way. And that's how you should vote. It should never be, well, the Republicans are more Christian, or oh, the Democrats are more Christian. It should just be what you want at the end of the day and what you get out of it. Personally speaking, I feel like Donald Trump could come out and give a beautiful speech, trying to bring people together, but people would still find the hate in it or still find something wrong with it. Vice versa. Joe Biden, Republicans, they're going to find something wrong with what he says. It's just the way it is in this nation and how hostile it is in this nation right now. How to fix that? No idea. But I want to see it fixed.
Yeah, honestly, with the past 2016 election, I think that the country has been more divided in the past 4 years than I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Right. So I constantly ask older people that I work with. I ask my mom, my family members. I'm like, have you ever seen elections be like this? Have you ever seen the country be like this? And they all say that, they all swear up and down, yeah, it's like this every election year. Yeah, it's like, yeah, but is it really the election year, or has it been like the last 4 or 5 years in a row? It's like I feel like we've never gotten to a common ground lately, and I'm just like, let's just meet in the middle and be happy. But I don't know how you do that. I don't even know if it's possible, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, honestly, because we were both in elementary school. Like, I don't even know what grade we were in when Obama was elected. And if people are having a fuss over a white man getting elected this year, they must have really been tearing it up when a black person was trying to become the
Okay.
president of the United States.
Right. And well, so he ran against John McCain, or yeah, he ran against John McCain first in 2008. And McCain came out and had a beautiful speech and said that he was happy, and that's how it should be. It shouldn't be. Which now I do see how there could be fraud in this election, and I want, even if I voted for Biden, I want them to look as deep into it as they can, because there was a lot of weird things that went on with this election, with the whole every single election in 2016, a huge election, right? We had the results by 3 a.m. the next morning. This election is like insane. We still don't know. And, we didn't know who was winning the major swing states till 2 or 3 days after. And it's we need to all come together as a nation and be like, how can we count these numbers and get them in quick to where there can be no questions on either side of any type of interference? Because it doesn't matter how it goes. There's always going to be questions. And personally speaking, it doesn't make sense to me how Donald Trump is losing a lot of these states that he was supposed to win, but the Senate and the Senate, Congress, all that, they're still red. Because personally speaking, most people that I know that go and fill out ballots, if they're voting blue or red on one thing, they're voting blue or red on the other. Like their ballot's going to be Donald Trump, whoever the red senator is, whoever the red congresswoman is, they're voting the same way all across the board. So how is Donald Trump losing by these votes that are found out of nowhere that come in, a day late, 2 days late? How is he losing by those votes, but still holding the Senate and everything down? That's the part that doesn't make sense to me. And I'm sure there's an explanation, an honest explanation. And if they want recounts, any lawsuit, anything that goes through court, everything should be heard until Inauguration Day on January 10th, I believe. Everything should be heard and everything should be listened to, and it shouldn't be a far left, far right thing. It should be, as a American people, let's find out who the next candidate is. Whether it's who you want it or not, let's find out, and let's do it the right way.
Yeah, of course. I think I can give you a half answer on that, because it's kind of like what you said, why you didn't want to vote for Trump, because it's like his poor attitude. That was one of the main reasons why Trump lost. So even if people would pick Joe Biden on the ballot, but then also Republicans on everything else, because they just didn't want to vote for Trump, but they're
Right.
pretty good Republican.
No, you're definitely right about that. I kind of did that. It's nice to have a civil conversation about it and not be so down each other's throats, being like, well, it's this way, or well, it's that way. We need more people like you, Kimberlee, that want to talk about it, want to get more educated about it. And I was actually very happy that you reached out to me about this, was because I was intrigued. I was like, well, I just want to see how it goes. And, I was like, I'm sure, I'm going to be as civil as I can be, because, I have no reason to be upset about anything. And we need more conversations like this, and we need people from both ends of the spectrum to come together and just agree. Maybe we haven't had the best candidates the last 4 or 8 years. Let's come together and figure out what it's going to take. Do we need to break away from the two-party system? What do we need to do to get the right person in office that's not only going to unify us, but is also going to do what needs to be done to get us back on track?
So I want to talk about the election, the 5 day long election. I know it gave me a lot of anxiety and doubt. Do you want to speak on how did you feel about the election during the time? That's the longest election that's ever happened in human history.
But the fact that the election took 5 days makes no sense to me. None at all. There's deadlines on when you have to get your ballot in. If you don't send it in quick enough and it's not there when it's supposed to be, well, too bad. You had 6 months before that to get your daggone ballot filled out and mailed in. Like, get it in when they tell you to get it in. If you're running late on it, or if you're postponing it, obviously it doesn't mean that much to you, personally. So you have a lot of states like Pennsylvania that are trying to change the laws of, well, we can't count ballots after this date. Well, we can't count ballots. They're pushing it to get all the votes that they can. Constitutionally, that's not right. You can't do that. And there's no room for that in an honest election. And so the whole 5 day period was ridiculous, because I remember going to bed on that Tuesday night, because I think I stayed up until like 1 or 2. I had to be at work at 5 a.m. I stayed up until like 1 or 2, because I knew in 2016 that the results were in like 2:30, 3 o'clock. And I was like, I'll just stay up and see who's winning. That way I'll know before I go to bed. Stayed up. I went to bed. I'm like, well, surely I'll have an alert when I wake up on my phone at like 5 or 6. I wake up, nothing. First thing I do, type in oh, well, we're still counting. I think Nevada was only at like 65%. And I was like, what the hell are they doing down there? I was like, count the damn votes. And the day went on, same thing, nothing changed. Thursday came, nothing changed. Friday came, nothing came. I think it was either Friday or Saturday. And then they came out and miraculously, Joe Biden found votes in Michigan. He found votes in Pennsylvania. He found votes in Georgia. And it's just, and especially in Michigan and especially in Pennsylvania, it makes no sense because they found a lump sum of votes out of nowhere for Joe Biden. And if you look at the graphs and the way they counted them, especially in like a little graph, and you go straight up Joe Biden, 300,000 votes. And it's just like, you mean to tell me? And even if it was like a county like Fulton County or in Atlanta, where majority is Biden or majority is Democratic, you're still going to have those oddballs that live in that county. So you're thinking a 75-25 split is normal. You're not going to find 300,000 votes in Pennsylvania that are all Biden. And it's just like, that's what I have questions about. That's where my little hint of there could be a little bit of fraud. There could have been a little bit of cheating involved. And, very well. And if Trump was to find that many votes, if we were all to be going to bed and Biden was winning, you go to bed on Tuesday evening, Biden is winning the major swing states by a lump sum of votes, by more than 100,000 votes. You go to bed, you wake up, and over the next 2 days, all of a sudden, Trump's beating Biden. It's going to make you question things. You're just, how the heck? There's no way. And that's where I think most people are just coming from the Republican Party. It's just like, well, this has never happened in any other election. So you mean to tell me this election takes 4 extra days and you just find Biden votes and all of a sudden he's winning? No. Let's look into it. Like I said, I voted for Biden, and I would genuinely like to see him win, but I don't want him to win with there be any suspicion. I want him to win because we went back and we recounted, and we know for a fact Joe Biden is our president. I don't want them to be any circumstances where they can spend the next 2 or 3 years trying to impeach him for fraudulent activity. I don't want any of that. I want to know for a fact the majority of America wanted Biden, and that's why he's our president. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And and the news doesn't get to announce who's the president. The government does. The government hasn't came out and said the winner or anything like that. The news networks, if you look on Twitter, if you look on Instagram, and I think it's at the very top of the post, it's a big thing how big politics are now. It says Joe Biden is the predicted winner of the race. He's not he's not the future president yet. He's the predicted winner of the race because if we go off the election results right now, that's who got elected. But there's tons and tons of court cases. There's a lot left to be done because back in 2000, George W. Bush lost Florida to Gore. Gore was the predicted winner. They go back, they look into it, they recount votes. George Bush. So everyone being so happy that Biden's elected and everything is probably the worst thing that could happen, because what happens when they go back and recount and Trump wins by a couple votes, or Trump wins by a couple electoral college votes? It's going to be madness because everyone's so happy Biden won. It's just, we're in for a rude awakening if they go back and recount votes and it's in Trump's favor. I don't know. What do you think?
There's just a lot of factors in it because Trump has constantly, I don't know if this is true or false, but what I've seen on the news is he's constantly tried to stop mail-in voting. He hired a new postmaster general. And I feel like when you say that they found votes, it's more like it's absentee voters who are mostly Democrats because of Trump saying that the virus is basically fake. So just go out and vote. So the Republicans went out and voted on election day, and the Democrats did absentee, because I did absentee and I did it early just because of that reason.
Right. So personally speaking, I don't know how the absentee ballots work. I've never filled one out. This is my first presidential election that I could take part in. I don't know how they get processed. I don't know how they work or anything like that. So with you telling me that, then yeah, there's a very well possibility that A lot of them weren't fraudulent. That maybe you could have, and I hope you can just find that many votes. I hope it's all true, but I also won't mind if we look further into it.
Oh, what do you what do you think about Trump's behavior during the election? Him doing court cases in most of the swing states to try and stop the voting, and then him wrongfully saying that he won while votes were still being counted in lots of states.
I don't know. His behavior during the election doesn't concern me. Doesn't really even bother me. It's more of his behavior the last 4 years of how I feel like he's kind of divided the nation a little bit. That's what bothers me. But his behavior during the election, I don't feel like it's a big matter or anything like that. Because at the same in the same respect, Biden and them were calling states that they won as well, or that they predicted to win all throughout the day as well. So you're kind of just like picking and choosing there whenever you get into that, because if you go look at Biden's Twitter or the Democratic Party Twitter, they're gonna, if you scroll down, early in the day, they're calling the states that normally go Democratic, once they hit like 85% and they have the numbers they need, they're going ahead and calling them states blue. And so I feel like Trump just did that. And since that state ended up flipping really, really, really late, I feel like that's the only reason people are talking about it. If that state would have stayed red, no one would have said a thing.
I'm glad that we had this conversation because I basically have held a grudge between you, Joel, and Cole for the past 4 years in my mind. So I'm glad that we came together as adults and kind of talked this out.
Yeah, but I'm glad you reached out, and because honestly, you came across came across my phone, and I was like, oh, who? I was like, Kimberlee. I was like, do I know Kimberlee? And I was like, oh my god! And I read it, and I was like, you said something about the sitting for the flag and everything. I was like, I know exactly who that is. Like, this is crazy. Because like, personally, and don't take offense to that. Let's see, you might be the fifth or sixth person I've talked to besides Cole or Joel that I graduated high school with. So it was just one of those things that was just like, I didn't, 4 years down the road, I didn't think I didn't think we'd ever really cross paths or talk again. I just figured we graduated high school and went our separate ways like a lot of people do. And so I read it and I was like, yeah, I got to. I was like, I got to reconnect, why not? And see how they're doing and talk about it. And so I'm glad you did. So I truly believe that if we as people talked more about things rather than just being mad at each other and not wanting to listen to each other, I feel like we get a lot further in life. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe after the coronavirus is together, we can get together, have a beer or something, and talk about
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be
normal
awesome.
human stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, take care, Kimberlee.
Okay. Hope you have a good one.
You as well. Bye.
Bye.